Hello everybody, this is Vince Venturella, just coming to you again with a quick video on something that I don't think anyone has covered yet that I've seen, but if I'm wrong, please put it down below because I'd love to watch those videos too. But what I want to talk about today is some tips for having a great first game, or early game, or giving the game another try, of Age of Sigmar. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, keep watching. If you're not, well, now you know what the video is about. A lot of people who have evinced a sort of issue with the game, the common response to them is just go play the game and then judge it. But the problem with that I've seen, and I have watched a lot, I think I've watched every bat rep I can get my hands on. I've read every blog post I can find on, just in general that gets retweeted or anything like that. And I've noticed that there's this distinction between people who have a good time and people who have a bad time. And so in watching all that and playing several games myself, which I enjoy greatly, I think I've built maybe a list of just 6 simple things that you can do that'll ensure you have a good first game. Okay? So, and to level set with this at the beginning before we get into the list, I think the important thing to realize here is, as many people on both sides of the discussion have said, Age of Sigmar is a completely new game. I mean, the new rules for all your units tell you that, but just the way the game plays, your objectives and all that is different. Now, I don't want to get into the discussion of is it more tactical and less tactical and all that. There's been a ton of discussion about that already. Instead, what I want to just say is, if you're interested in having a fun time, I think these are some things that you can do to enjoy your first game more. All right, so here we go. Six things you can do to have a better game, a better first game of Age of Sigmar. All right, number 1, start small. Okay, I've seen a lot of games where people just plop down like huge armies like they would have in 8th edition. And they don't know what they're doing, and necessarily because there's rules changes and things just kind of get messy and yada yada yada. Start small. Your first game isn't your last game. You're going to have lots of chances to play this game if you're so inclined over the next couple years. My first game that I did, myself and my buddy, I said, let's do 4 Warscrolls. Let's do 1 hero, 1 monster, 1 war machine, 1 unit, capped at 24 wounds. Was that a full-size game? No, but did the game work fine? Yes. One of the great advantages of this game is that it really is scalable. It can play from very small, a couple models, to larger. So I thought, let's start really small. We'll get to see how everything works. There's a monster, so we get to see how the chart works of how they get worse. You get the power of a hero with his special abilities and command abilities or spellcasting. You get to see how a unit works and how they're moving around the board. And you get a war machine because it's fun to see how war machines work and shoot at things, right? And that was a very positive thing because we got a taste of everything, but it was not overwhelming. And we both had a really good time. And actually, the game was quick. And immediately after that, my buddy was like, let's re-rack and try something a little bigger. And then we were ready to do that. And even then, by the way, we just stepped up to like 3 units, but kept everything else the same. The point is, this is a gradual process. And I think that part of the big adjustment is realizing that even though we've all been playing 8th edition for years, and this still has the name Warhammer, it is a new game. And it's the same as if you picked up any other game. If you went and played Malifaux for the first time, or War Machine, or anything, you'd want to keep it simple in your first time out. Right, and you'd want to have, a playing field where you can actually learn and experience sort of as many parts of the game as are reasonable for your first time out. Number 2, play slow. Okay, and by that I mean don't be smarter than the rules. Okay, the rules are only 4 pages, and I know we've all made fun of them for being so super simple or whatever, but between the rules, which are many things acting differently, and the special rules that are on all of your Warscrolls, take your time. You're not in a rush. It's not a tournament. There's no 2.5-hour limit. A TO is not coming around to buzz you if you take too long. Play slow. It's fine. Just read all your stuff. Do what you're doing. Don't try to hurry up for no reason. There's no clock except the one you set, right? And that leads right into number 3, which is number 3. Discuss thoroughly with your opponent what you're taking beforehand, and while you're playing the game, discuss what you're doing and the abilities your units have. So it's, again, it's not a tournament game. You're learning. You're playing for fun. Talk about what your units do. Explain them to your opponents. You don't need to play super closed lists the first time and try to get one over on them. You know, there'll be lots of chances to do that later. For now, both of you should be talking about, well, I was thinking about taking this, this, and this. And the other person can say, that's cool, I was going to take this, this, and this. And come to a total agreement before you set down the figs. Again, that doesn't need to happen every game, but why not do it your first game? Why put more pressure on yourself when you're trying to learn? Right? Just set you up to have fun. Okay? Number 4, try stuff. And by that, I mean use weird things you wouldn't normally take in the old world. They might be better now. Use the mystical terrain that it says. Make long charges, right? Get in all sorts of different fights. Kill and get your stuff killed. In other words, enjoy the game to its maximum. Don't try to play cagey and preserve your models and stuff like that. I mean, whatever. You can play as smart as you feel necessary. But for the first game, you know, take the game through its paces. Being conservative and being sort of reserved with your first game isn't going to lead to a positive experience. In battle reports of 8th edition, the difference when you saw people who were just playing for fun is they'd make that crazy charge. They'd get in that fight they knew they weren't supposed to be in. They'd be like, it's just a fun game. Let's do it. We'll take the same attitude here. Right? It's a fun game. You're learning. Get in some crazy fights. Run through some weird terrain. See what happens. All right, number 5. Don't agonize over your unit choices. So this ties back into what I said earlier, but it's important. In other words, even if you limit yourself, don't sit there and read every scroll and try to figure out great synergies and stuff like this in your first game. Ugh, boring. Just grab 4 things and go. Who cares? You will have all the time in the world to learn the scrolls. Put some things on the board and push your models around. And enjoy what you've got. And you'll learn about those there. For my first game, I took like a Tomb King and a chariot and had no other chariots. And then in the game, I read his command ability and I was like, oh, well, that's useless. Who cares? Let's roll dice. Because you're learning. That's going to be fun. So you don't need to worry about having super synergies. As time goes on, you can start digging through your Warscrolls and find all your complex synergies and create some real nasty situations and armies and lists. All right, and number 6. I'll echo something that MC1 Gamer said, and that is, don't change a bunch of rules. So I know you might think shooting into combat's crazy, or rolling for initiative at the top of every turn is crazy, or magic is ridiculous, I need to be able to dispel anywhere, or whatever. All the things I've seen that people have mentioned changing. Maybe. But the only thing we changed out of the gate, and that's because I have a lot of unusually modeled models, was we'll measure from the base instead of from the model. We did that. And that was a positive change. So I agree with Andy 2D6 on the video he made of measure from the base. And we both talked about it beforehand and said, you know, I have all these crazy models. A lot of them, I built them in 8th edition. I wasn't intending to model them for Age of Sigmar, but I have people up on rocks and, you know, jumping and leaping in the air and stuff. It's going to be really weird if we measure from the model. Would you like to just measure from the base? And he said, sure, let's do that. Seems simpler to me. So we did. But we kept the random turn order, which was awesome. It made the game so much more tactical to have a random order on the turn. Because now you had to think not just 1 move ahead, but 2 moves ahead. What if my opponent gets 2 turns? Where is that going to leave me? By keeping the magic like it was, you had to think, where is my wizard? Do I bring him into range to dispel and then put him in range of the enemy spells or not? By keeping the shooting, it changed a lot of the way we acted. And by the way, it was super fun. Like, it was not a problem. Now, if your opponent, again, because if you follow all these rules, your opponent's not showing up with a bunch of shooting and overwhelming you and playing sort of a real, list that might make this inconvenient, let's say. Okay? Instead, you're having a friendly discussion. You have maybe a unit that shoots. You shoot into combat. It's fine. Okay? SKU lists are a thing, and sure, they can ruin the game in Age of Sigmar just like they could in 8th edition, just like they could in every edition. SKU lists are often unfun, so don't play them, especially not for your first game. If you want to play them later, when both you and your opponent are playing fun SKUs, and that's the test, awesome, do that. That sounds super sweet and challenging. But for now, take it easy, right? So, 6 items. Start small, couple Warscrolls of each type, play slow, read everything, check the rules. There'll be things you miss, like I was standing in cover and somebody charged into cover and they were going to claim the +1 bonus to their save for being in cover, and I was like, I felt like there was an exception to that, and we went and read, and sure enough, it was. There are still nuances in those 4 pages, especially when combined with your Warscrolls. Discuss with your opponent what they're taking, what you're taking, and what you're doing, and what your models are capable of. Try stuff, try charges, get in fights you might think are bad. Who knows? Don't agonize over your choices. Take stuff you think looks neat or fun. Don't worry about internalizing every ability on the first run out. And don't change a bunch of rules. Play the game how it is and see how you like it. I think if you do those 6 things, you give yourself the best chance of having a fun first or maybe comeback game, second chance game of Age of Sigmar. Am I guaranteeing you're going to love it? No. Game's not for everyone. And that's okay. No game is for everyone. But I hope that these tips will maybe help you have a better first game and have a good time. And have as much fun as I did. All of us who played, we got together and we played for a good long day, just playing a bunch of games. And it was fantastic fun. We used different armies, and everybody at the end of the day was like, wow, that was really good. And we all walked away with a positive feeling and wanted to play more. And that seems like a pretty good deal to me. I had a great day, want to do more of it. That's why we're playing the game, right? All right. So leave any comments or tips you have for how to have a good, fun first game down below. I'd love to hear them, so share them out there. And as always, see you next time.